I would like to share a little bit about my journey to becoming the youngest chief strategist in a Fortune 500 company in Malaysia. Unlike my speakers before me, they have many jokes to share, they have wonderful fights to share, inspiring adoption stories. Mine would be a little bit more conventional, but there's a message that I hope all of y'all can take away. Because just like many of y'all here, majority, I'm just an ordinary Malaysian, and an ordinary boy who has big dreams, but taking baby steps along the way. When TEDx invited me, they wanted me to speak on this topic, committing to breaking barriers and status quo. It means barriers that are set up, not your physical wall that Donald Trump talks about, but the barriers that actually humans set up between one another. These walls and these status quos are actually imaginary, meaning it should not exist in the first place, yet due to differences, it exists. And I'm here to talk about how to break it. The average age of a C-suite in a Fortune 500 company is 54 years old. This man, owner of Viacom and CBS, he's the chairman and he's 92 years old. This man needs no introduction. He's 32 years old. So does age really matter in what you do? Well, statistics actually show it does. Only 2% of the directors in the S&P 500 boards are below 55 years old. Then, there is a saying, first being a veteran, then a leader. What do you mean by being a veteran? It means that you must at least accumulate years of experience before you're able to become a leader. Is it true? This man is the vice chairman of Toyota. He has served the company for 41 years. And this man, well, some of y'all might know him, some not. His name is Zhang Yong, and he spent 10 years before being the CEO of Alibaba. And with only 3 days away to 11/11, I'm sure some of y'all here waiting for the shopping spree. He is the creator of 11/11. Number of Asians, now I'm talking about ethnicity, as CEO in Fortune 500 companies. Anyone can guess the number? Less than 5%. Well, Jack Ma, everyone knows him, recently stepped down and retired. The other man, less famous, but his popularity is rising. Known as the richest doctor in the world, who later on went into business, Mr. Patrick is the new owner of LA Times. It is only this handful of people that actually is able to break barriers and status quo. This picture, you might not understand what is the meaning behind it. There's this term that was coined in the US, it's called the bamboo ceiling. It means that if you are of a certain heritage, specifically Asians, you do not have the ability to break through. For women, they refer it to the glass ceiling. And again, all these barriers and status quos are actually imaginary. Age, gender, tenure, ethnicity, social status, qualification, religion, and lineage. One more, it's a new term that people use all the time, comfort zone. How many of you are actually willing to step out your comfort zone to make it in life? I actually know a lot of people who have many dreams. Some use the unconventional way and quit their job, taking all the risks. Some working 3 to 4 jobs a day just to make a living. Dreams are not even part of their way of making it happen. But it all comes down to us breaking all these barriers. I will speak slowly. I was a product of the national school system. I skipped a year due to an IQ examination. I went to a top school, not because I had wonderful heritage or because I know someone or I come from a well-upstanding society family, but rather a lot of these qualifications that I've obtained are all the conventional paths that everyone told me that, hey, you can do it, you work hard, you should go for it. But it was never part of my dream to go into the top school or becoming a lawyer both in Singapore and Malaysia. It was actually a calculated move. I knew what I wanted to be at 13. Of course, my dream is not to dress in suit to speak to the crowd. Neither was speaking at TEDx a part of my dream, but there was a dream that I wanted to pursue. I'll come to that later on. And I knew that to get there, there are certain steps that I need to get through because the barriers and status quo of society actually made it compulsory for us to comply in certain ways before we can change it. And now, today, having achieved what I've achieved, this is the message I want to share to all of y'all when someday all of y'all become successful leaders in your own frontiers. Why should we be subjected to status quos and barriers before we are given a chance to speak at a forum like TEDx? I was a lawyer, and of course, I started my career in Singapore. Then I came back, and now I'm here, southern part of Johor, working on the single largest, biggest project in Asia as the chief strategist. And it's all because of one thing. I wanted to serve the country. When everyone says that the best way to serve the country is run for office, become someone in power, become the prime minister, maybe that is the best way you can serve the country. I beg to differ. I believe using economics and being in a position to create jobs for people actually changes the life of your fellow nations. These are the colleagues at my project. 80% of them are Malaysians, but before I took on this role, there were only a very low localization rate of close to 50%. So these are the way I served my country, and I'd like to share a little bit. I was a top lawyer in an American law firm. I then joined a local conglomerate as a strategist, but I felt that being in a very successful company isn't my end goal. And so, I chose to become a chief strategist of a very, very complex project. And today, you all must be wondering, what does a chief strategist do? It's actually a trinity: economics, politics, and social. Just think about those days where the war generals and the king, there's always someone who's talking and mumbling in their ears, telling them what to do. Well, that's pretty much what I do. Telling them that economically, this is what you should achieve. Politically, this is the strategy to overcome. Socially, what are the things you should take into consideration? So I chart out strategies of all three. It may sound boring, but let me put it into perspective for you. I hope that today you all can take away something instead of just remembering me as someone in suit sharing with you all. I call this the pack theory. Perseverance, altruism, creativity, and knowledge. Remember this, I'll come back again to this. I call this the pack theory. Perseverance. I was a nobody making my way in life. So some of you all might know this bus. This bus travels between Malaysia to Singapore. Every week, I take this for 50 weeks on a weekend to Singapore and back to KL. 12 hours of my weekend is spent. Because at that point in time, Singapore provided a better economic growth opportunity for me. And for me, the fastest way to reach what I want to do is to go through a pain, leaving my comfort zone, overcoming that barrier and status quo. Then, while everyone was on their phone, playing away with their new games on a new iPhone 4 or iPhone 5, I was always reading this article, hoping that someday I'll be on Forbes. And just 2 months ago, I appeared on Forbes. The man on the right is Jack Nicklaus, the greatest golfer of all time, and his son. So it is through my corporate roles I achieved these goals, but before getting there, it was persevering, and when you are nobody, really, literally nobody, an immigrant in another country trying to prove yourself, all it requires is perseverance. Next, altruism. You all may not know what it means, but in short, it's being kind. In my everyday job, I'm not all dressed up in suit and telling everyone that, hey, I'm the chief strategist, and everything I do is glamorous. No. I chart out strategies to better the society. I get involved in contributing back to society and diverting the funds of the company to help those poor villagers around me. Because corporate really can change. There are a lot of things our government want to do, but sometimes they lack the initiatives and funds to help spur the growth of those at the bottom 40. I call them the B40 and M40. And these are the initiatives that I've always embarked on to make the life being in corporate meaningful. Creativity. I'm a spokesperson for the company. I speak for the organization. I spoke at radios. The other picture is the China ambassador. I spoke to the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. And I do interviews over and over again. And each time in my interview, I promote the country that I am, the project that I am, the people that is working in my company. It's never about how great my company is, it's always about how great the people are in my company. And most importantly, knowledge. You require knowledge to change your destiny. And the only way you can do so is through vast reading, vast interaction with people who are more intelligent than you, even people who are less. There's always something to learn. So curiosity is very important. And of course, I always sum up my career in 3 ways. I spent 10 minutes briefing the previous Prime Minister. I spent 40 minutes briefing the current Prime Minister. And I spent 3 hours briefing the future Prime Minister. And I actually had a privilege to meet our Prime Minister 2 months ago. And that is the pinnacle of my career. Why? Because while I wanted to change the world, studying law, my dream was actually to become a diplomat. Sadly, due to certain policies, I was never given a fair opportunity to become a foreign diplomat. But I persevered. So coming back, what was the theory that I talked about just now? The PACT theory: perseverance, altruism, creativity, and knowledge. You think my story ends here? I thought so too. So, the guy in the picture is Henry Kissinger. He's the greatest diplomat of all time in our history. He's the one who brought United States closer to China. But 10 years later, I am a business diplomat. I spoke in the United Nations as the only Malaysian and as the only Asian on the industry panel, I think 2 weeks ago. And when I was given the opportunity to speak, the most important thing that struck me was what was the topic I was going to talk about. And I focused on 2 things. Although my company wanted me to go out to say how great my company is, I focused on 2 very important things. One, social inclusion. Another is collective and shared prosperity. I believe these 2 values will help our nation grow and for the economic wealth to trickle down to the people. And while I've never been able to be a foreign diplomat, and I don't think I'll ever will be, but through all my platforms and opportunities, I made sure that I make my country proud and my fellow countrymen proud. Before I end, I'd like to share a little story. So you all must be wondering, what is this? What has this got anything to do with what I'm about to share? This 2,500 years old sword belongs to King of Yue during the spring and autumn warring period. It's regarded as the #1 sword in the world. When it was uncovered, the condition was actually very, very good. Because during that time, they made the best bronze weapon. Currently, it sits at the Hubei Provincial Museum and considered a China state treasure. But what people don't know is the story behind this person. And this is the reason why I'm able to persevere until today. It's my favorite history from the book. And it's these 4 words. Sorry. It means sleeping on brushwood and tasting gall. The King of Yue was captured as a slave, and he had to persevere. Only after 10 years being a slave to the person who captured him, he went back to his home country, slept on brushwood every single day, tasted the gall of the snake to remind him of the pain of being a slave. He took another 10 years to build up his army and overthrew the corrupt regime that captured him and became the last unifying leader of that warring period. So the message I'm trying to tell you all is that no barriers and status quo should tell you that you cannot be who you want or what you want to achieve in life. I'm only 29 this year. I always ask myself, what's next? I don't think I'll ever be a politician. I don't think I'll ever be a prime minister. But one thing is for sure, there's a dream that I want to achieve. And no matter what happens, I will still persevere and not give up. I think that's the beauty of being in TEDx. Most of us share the same stories and same dreams. But one thing, we all use different paths to achieve it. And I hope that my little bit of sharing will always remind you all that there is this person in this country who never give up chasing his dreams. Thank you very much.